So what is the SUMIFS function in Excel? How does the SUMIFS function differ from the SUMIF function? Well, in this video, let's look at an example where we have some values based on multiple filtering criteria so that we're able to know what the SUMIFS function can do for us. So in this example, I have the details of employees including their annual salary, total incentive, and also the department, the business unit, and the country from which the employees are. I want to know the total incentive for employees who are from the sales department and who are from the United States. So as you can see in this case, here I have two criteria on the basis of which I have to add values from the total incentive column. The first criteria is employees should be from the sales department. The second criteria is they should belong to United States. The column which I have to add is the total incentive column because I want to know the total incentive for employees from sales department and also who are from United States. So let us put all of this in order here. The department is sales department, the country is United States, and we have to calculate the total incentive. So we will use the SUMIFS function. It is a plural version of the SUMIF function. SUMIFS, sum range, so we have to add the total incentive. So we will select this column here, cell G2, control shift down arrow on the keyboard, control backspace on the keyboard, comma, then the criteria range 1. Criteria range 1 is the department, so we will select this range here, control shift down arrow on the keyboard, control backspace again, comma, criteria. The criteria is department should be sales department, so we will refer to this cell. We can also add sales in double quotes directly, or we can refer to a cell. So I am referring to a cell here, comma. After it, the rest of the criteria range is optional. So our second criteria is country. So we'll select the country column here, comma. It should be United States. So we'll mention this cell here, close the parenthesis, hit enter on the keyboard. So this is the total incentive for employees from the United States who are also from the sales department. Let us give this figure a proper formatting. Let us go to Home tab and in the number formatting give it a dollar currency format. So now it looks good. So this is how we can use the SUMIFS function. Now let's try to add another criteria to the SUMIFS function and see how it calculates the results for us. So let's cut these values here, paste it in the next. We will also add the business unit. Say that we want to calculate the total incentive for employees from the sales department who are also from the United States and who are from the manufacturing business unit. So the business unit is manufacturing. Let's edit our function here, the SUMIFS function. We'll put a comma after the last argument and add the third criteria range. The third criteria range is business unit. Control shift down arrow on the keyboard, control backspace again, comma. Business unit should be manufacturing. So let's refer to this cell here. Close the parenthesis, hit enter. You can see that the SUMIFS function has calculated the total incentive after taking into account all of these criteria or conditions that we have specified. Having understood the basics of the SUMIFS function, let's now move a step forward and see how we can use logical operators with the SUMIFS function to add values based on multiple logical conditions. For example, I want to add the total incentive for only those employees whose annual salary exceeds 1 lakh. So in that case, I will use the SUMIFS function. My sum range will be total incentive again. The criteria range will be annual salary, comma, the criteria will be greater than 1 lakh because I want to add only those values whose salary exceeds 1 lakh. Remember that I have to keep it in double quotes. Then I will hit enter on the keyboard and Excel will calculate the total incentive for those employees whose annual salary exceeds $1 lakh. Now, this was the first condition. I can add another condition. Suppose my next criteria is I want to add total incentive for those employees whose annual salary exceeds 1 lakh and also whose total incentive exceeds 1 lakh. So I will enter the criteria range second. The criteria range second will be total incentive again. the criteria will be total incentive is greater than 1 lakh. I will keep this value also in double quotes, close the parenthesis, hit enter, and here you have your output. This is the value, this is the total incentive for those employees whose annual salary exceeds $1 lakh and also whose total incentive exceeds 1 lakh. Now let's look at how the SUMIFS function differs from the SUMIF function. If we use the SUMIF function, SUMIF, you can see that for SUMIF you have to enter the range, criteria range first, then the criteria, then at last you have to add the sum range. However, the SUMIFS function takes the sum range first, then it takes the criteria first and criteria range first. After that it takes the criteria range second and criteria second, and so on and so forth up to 127 criteria. But for SUMIF function you can enter only a single criteria. So that is the primary difference between the SUMIFS and SUMIF function. Now, having understood what the SUMIFS function is and how it differs from the SUMIF function, you may ask why hasn't Microsoft kept the syntax of both these functions same simply by adding additional criteria ranges to the SUMIF function. The reason is, for the SUMIFS function you can enter up to 127 number of criteria ranges. Some users may need only a single criteria range and some users may need X number of criteria. So that's why Microsoft has brought the sum range first in the SUMIFS function, followed by one mandatory criteria and criteria range argument and 126 more optional criteria and criteria range arguments. So this was a brief introduction about the SUMIFS function. I would recommend you to always use the SUMIFS function instead of the SUMIF function, because in addition to doing what the SUMIF function can do, SUMIFS can do extraordinary things for you. So at last, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe the channel. Thanks for watching the video till end.